Dear students, welcome to Zoology Brush Up Zoology classes. We are continuing our topic aortic arches. In my last lecture of aortic arches, we studied that the evolution of aortic arches that basically depends upon two factors: respiratory system, change in that gills to lungs, and the chambers of the heart, two chambered heart to four chambered heart, and we studied this basic plan of arterial system of aortic arches, particularly of the head region. The fundamental plan of aortic arches in all the vertebrates is six pairs. That the organisms, the vertebrates, they have to pass through this stage, be it in the embryo or in the adult. So 1 to 6, out of which the one is the ventral aorta that rises in the center and then splits into two, and from the ventral aorta arise these arches, which are six in number, six pairs in number. First and second one respectively called as mandibular arch and hyoid arch, after the name of the visceral arches, and the rest are the 1 to 4 branchial arches, and they may have afferent branchial and efferent branchial arteries. This is what we studied. And the lateral dorsal aorta, they join and converge at the posterior end of the pharynx, and they emerge as median dorsal aorta, and posteriorly it leads to caudal artery. So this was the basic plan. And then we started talking about changes in aortic arches, where we discussed the change in the type plan of aortic arches and branchiostoma, where I told you that it has 180 pairs of aortic arches. Now, in today's lecture, we would be talking about the aortic arches basic plan in case of Petromyzon and in case of, let's say, in case of cyclostome. That is, there are 8 pairs of aortic arches in case of Petromyzon, and out of which 6 pairs are the holobranchs. So these holobranchs, these are the holobranchs. So what all splice these? We'll have a look at this very diagram. You've already seen the diagram on this side. You would see there are there are 6 pairs of holobranch and one pair of hemibranch on either side. It would be present. Of course, there is one ventral aorta. This is the ventral aorta, which splits at the level of fourth branchial pouch. Somewhere here it splits into two. And how we count these? One hemibranchs. This one is the hemibranch, because it has gill lamellae only on one side. So this is anterior hemibranch, and here is the posterior hemibranch. So one pair each for hemibranch. So that makes 2 pairs of aortic arches which are supplying these hemibranchs, whereas there are rest 6 pairs of holobranchs. So these are present here around one. See, this is one complete holobranch. This is second holobranch, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. These are 6 pairs of holobranchs. So these are being supplied by these aortic arches. So hence that makes 8 pairs of aortic arches. That would be on right side, as well as similar would be observed on the left side. Similarly, the very first one, this is first afferent artery. Whereas if you look at the from second to seventh, each one that is splitting into 2, and that is supplying the respective side of this septum to the gill lamellae. So the blood is being purified at this level. It goes for purification at this level. And if we look at it has slightly different plan as compared to the basic plan which I taught you in the last lecture. So we'll have a look at the scheme of efferent branchial arteries. So here in similar manner, there are 8 pairs of such efferent branchial arteries which pick up the blood from the respective branchial pouches that is 6 holobranchs, and last one and the first one are the hemibranchs, and then from both the sides they together they join to form the median dorsal aorta. Here, as we did in the basic plan, they were lateral aorta, but here it is only median dorsal aorta that collects the blood from the either side, whereas anteriorly this dorsal aorta it splits into two. And but however soon it joins its two parts, split parts join to form the cephalic circle. So that was a basic plan of aortic arches in case of petromyzon, or let's say the round mouth fishes or cyclostome. So now here we come to the aortic arches of fishes. What happens in fishes? If we are talking about cartilaginous fishes, there are maximum number are the 7 pair of aortic arches, that is in Heptanchus. Whereas in Hexanthus has 6 pairs of aortic arches. A typical representative of cartilaginous fishes, that is Scalodon. We are making the scheme for the Scalodon, and as you can see, you can keep on one side, keep in mind the basic plan which I told you that had the basic plan had 6 pair of aortic arches, one ventral aorta. This one is the ventral aorta, which splits into two portions, and from the split portion rise first and second aortic arches. Now what happens? What is the difference as compared to the basic plan? The first one is reduced, which I have made with the dotted lines. So it is already lost. Whereas the Scalodon, it is left with second, third, fourth, fifth and sixth. That means it has only 5 pairs of a total number of aortic arches, out of which the very first pair is not having efferent branchial artery, whereas all these from third, fourth, fifth and sixth one, rest of the 4 pairs, they have one branch that supplies the gills and the other one that drains the blood from it, which is efferent branchial artery. And ultimately on the sides it is draining the blood into the lateral dorsal aorta, and lateral dorsal aorta joins posteriorly to form the median dorsal aorta. So that is the plan for the let's say Scalodon, that was a representative of cartilaginous fish. Now next we are coming to the basic plan in case of the bony fish. Now what happens in bony fish? In case of bony fish, the total number of let's say the basic plan is similar, that is 6 pairs, but here what is the difference? That first 2 pairs they are lost. These 2 are lost, and then it is left with third, fourth, fifth and sixth. That is only 4 pair of branchial arches it is left with, and similarly on the sides it drains into the lateral dorsal aorta, and posteriorly it joins to form the median dorsal aorta. The split portion of the this ventral aorta, it is called as external carotid artery. So that was the case in it was the example in case of bony fish. Now we have a look at what happens in the let's say amphibians. Now we talk about the amphibians. So what is the difference in case of amphibians? Amphibians, they are amniotic. The aortic arches, they show considerable modification besides further reduction in number. Here also the number is going to reduce. The aortic arches are not first thing, they are not differentiated into afferent efferent portion because internal gills are not developed. These are formed only in the fishes because they were internal gills. So first we talk about urodales. What happens in case of urodales, which are tailed amphibian? The first and second aortic arches, these are reduced. So the basic plan we'll be making, that would be similar as was the case for the rest of the animals. And this is, here is the ventral aorta, which is splitting anteriorly into two parts. So as I said, first and the second, these are, which I made, these are lost. First and second are lost. Similar thing you can make on the other side also. Now they are left with second, right, and third, that is third, fourth, fifth is also very much reduced. So we make it thinner. This is the fifth one and the sixth one. This is the sixth one. So I'll just explain what happens to all these. Now the radices of the lateral dorsal aorta. Now what is the change here? These are reduced and these are the radices of the dorsal aorta. These are changed into internal carotid artery. While the ventral aorta, the split portion of the ventral aorta, external carotid arteries. And from where these are, the portion of the ventral aorta from where these two are originating, this is called as common carotid. So that is clear. And now what happens to the rest? The fourth pair of aortic arch, that changes into systemic arches. This is the third pair. Third pair is becoming this internal carotid artery along with the radices. And whereas now we are talking about the fourth artery. Fourth artery, this changes into the systemic arch. And the part of lateral dorsal aorta between third and fourth, it is still there. This portion is still there, which is called as ductus communicus. Fifth pair aortic arch, it becomes very much reduced, and sixth part, it changes into pulmocutaneous arteries on both the sides. So we are just left with four pairs, out of which the first and second, proper mandibular and hyoid, they are already lost. Third, along with the radices of the lateral dorsal aorta, it is forming the internal carotid artery, and the origin where it is splitting and it is giving rise, that is called as common carotid artery. Fourth one is changing into systemic arch. Fifth one is reduced. The connection is still between third and fourth, which is called as ductus communicus. Sixth one is changed into pulmocutaneous artery, and it also retains this pulmocutaneous. It retains, here it is retaining the connection with that of the lateral dorsal aorta, and this portion is called as ductus arteriosus. Ductus arteriosus. So that was the plan in case of tailed amphibians. The external gills, they develop external gills. The external gills of urodele larva, they are vascularized by specialized vascular loops from the aortic arches that are intact. Now we have a look at the anurans. What happens in case of anurans? So we compare it sidewise. In case of frog, tailless amphibians, first, second and fifth pairs of aortic arches are, and portion of lateral dorsal aorta between third and fourth, they disappear. That means first, second, and this is the fifth one, they are lost. So how you are going to draw it? The basic, of course, we would be making the basic plan. Lateral dorsal aorta. These are the lateral dorsal aorta, the median dorsal aorta, and this is the ventral aorta, and it splits its split part. And now we see that the first with the dotted line, it is lost. So is the second one is also lost, and here is the third one. Third one is present, persists similarly as in case of urodeles, which is called as the internal carotid artery, and the split part similarly it would be called as external carotid artery. And here is the common, from where the two arise, common carotid artery. And I said here is the fourth one, fourth aortic arch, and this is the fifth aortic arch, which I said already lost. This is lost, and moreover the connection, this is also lost. That means there would be no connection, and you can make it with the dotted line, and this is the sixth one. So this connection is lost, and this is the sixth aortic arch. First, second, third, fourth, fifth lost, and this particular connection is lost, and this is the sixth aortic arch, and that is the case in case of this is the case in anneurons. The fourth aortic arch, it changes into systemic arch. So this is the systemic arch. These join together posteriorly to form median dorsal aorta, obviously. So this is joining. Actually, as such, no connection is left. So these are the ones which are joining the lateral dorsal aorta, and posteriorly it is forming the median dorsal aorta. And the sixth pair, it is becoming pulmocutaneous arch. They send one branch to lungs and a cutaneous branch to the skin on either side. So it is pulmocutaneous basically. And whereas it has lost the connection, that is ductus arteriosus is no more there, that connection is reduced, and imagine all of this is shrunk together. The ventral aorta, it shrinks, and ultimately it gets incorporated into the conus arteriosus to form truncus arteriosus. For that you have to visit the structure of the, let's say, heart of the frog, where it is shrunk. Whole of this ventral aorta is getting shrunk. It becomes reduced, and so that this artery, that is pulmocutaneous, the next is systemic, and pulmocutaneous and systemic, they are coming, and third is the carotid artery. This is coming very close. So if you go and visit the structure of the heart of the frog, you would see such structures. One is pulmocutaneous, other one is, let's say, the systemic, and third is the common carotid artery. These are brought very close to each other because this portion, it gets shrunk, and the ventral aorta, it gets incorporated into the conus arteriosus to form the structure truncus arteriosus. The aneuron larvae, they first develop 3 pair of external gills, which again receive the blood from loops of 3rd, 4th and 5th aortic arches as in urodale larva. And later on, these gills are replaced by peculiar internal gills enclosed by operculum, and these are supplied by aortic arches 3 to 6 by breaking up into, again, capillaries within them. So that was about the aortic arches in case of aneurons. Now, the next is aortic arches in case of reptiles. Now what happens in reptiles and how the aortic arches they differ in case of reptiles. As in amphibians, here also the first, second and fifth aortic arch is lost. So basic plan same, making this common dorsal aorta at the posterior end, and of course there would be slight differences. But this is basically the ventral aorta proper, which we did in the basic plan, the split portion. And now, as I said, the first, second and the fifth. So here is the first one with the dots. We are making it with the dots, that is lost. The second one is also lost. The third one is still there, joining the lateral aorta. The radices of the lateral aorta to form the internal carotid. Split portions of ventral aorta forming external carotid as in other cases also, and the common portion from where these two are originating commonly would be called as common carotid. So this is the third one and this is the fourth one. Slightly it will be, making of it would be slightly different. So we'll come to the next point. First I'm going to discuss the fifth one. Fifth one is already lost. So you can make it with the dotted line. This is the fifth aortic arch and here is the fourth aortic arch. Now what happens to the fourth aortic arch? Fourth, the left systemic aorta. Now the aortic arches are further modified in reptiles. Truncus arteriosus, that is the conus arteriosus in ventral aorta, basically that splits into three vessels. One is left systemic arch, right systemic arch, and one is pulmonary aorta. So that would come out of this fourth one. The fourth one would be forming the left systemic arch. So it would be left systemic arch one and right systemic arch, and sixth one is the pulmonary aorta. So this one is the pulmonary aorta, actually being derived from sixth one. But here, as I said, ventral aorta, it is incorporated into conus arteriosus to form truncus arteriosus, and that gives rise to these. But basically, they are originating. This one systemic aorta is originating from the fourth, and fifth is lost, and sixth is giving rise to this pulmonary aorta. So that is about the modification. The left systemic aorta, this is left systemic aorta. This establishes connection with the right side of the partly divided ventricle at one end and with the left aortic arch with the left fourth aortic arch at the other end. So this is the left fourth aortic arch. Systemic arch, this is basically the systemic arch proper, making connection with the left side of the with that of the left fourth aortic arch, whereas on the other end it would be within the heart, within the ventricle. Whereas similarly, therefore it forms left systemic arch. The right systemic aorta that joins the left side of the ventricle at one end and with the right fourth aortic arch. So this is the right fourth aortic arch. On the other end, it is making connection with that of the within the heart. So these are certain modifications which are giving it the nature of proper systemic arches. The right and left, this is the right systemic arch, this is the left systemic arch. These cross at one point, and whereas posteriorly they join to form the median dorsal aorta. The two systemic aortic arches, as it is visible at this very point, they intercross each other. They are they intercommunicate through foramen of Pennese. at a point where they emerge out from the ventricle. The pulmonary aorta connects to the right side of the ventricle and to the sixth pair of aortic arch, but it has lost the connection with rest of the lateral dorsal aorta. There is as such no ductus arteriosus, and therefore they become simply pulmonary arteries. Certain lizards, they retain fifth aortic arch also. This one also is retained in certain lizards in reduced form. However, mixing of blood that takes place in all the reptiles, including the crocodilians, which have completely separated ventricles. Now we'll have a look at the plan of aortic arches in case of birds. So how birds are different. So birds in first and here also first, second, fifth pair of aortic arches, they disappear. So the basic plan similar. This is the dorsal aorta. Basic plan you have to make. You can make the diagrams using a pencil and then you can rub, because first you try to make one complete plan and then you can rub it or make it with dots or with some other color. So this is the basic plan of the typical vertebrate. Now what are the differences from that? First, second and fifth aortic arches, of course you would be making the ventral aorta. So this is the ventral aorta and it splits. First pair reduced, second pair lost, first and second pair both are lost. And the third one, this is the third pair of aortic arch joins the lateral dorsal aorta to form this kind of structure, which is internal carotid artery, and ventral aorta split portion, internal carotid artery, and the joint from where they are originating, that is called as common carotid artery. So this is the basic, that is similar for all other organisms. Now what are the differences? The lungs, they have four pair of heart is four chambers, sorry. So here comes the difference. Common carotid is there as such. Truncus arteriosus. Now, what is truncus arteriosus? That is ventral aorta merged with that of the conus arteriosus. That splits into two main vessels, that is systemic aorta and pulmonary aorta. The systemic aorta, it joins. The fourth one is to form the systemic aorta. The systemic aorta, it is on this side, right side. Birds, if you visit the heart of birds, you would have a knowledge that the birds only have right systemic aorta. So the right systemic aorta, it basically originates from the fourth aortic arch, and on the left side it is just left as left subclavian vein. Left subclavian artery. In the similar fashion, the right systemic artery, after turning around, it also gives off a branch which is right subclavian artery. Behind it, the left fourth aortic arch, it becomes subclavian artery, and the part of the lateral dorsal aorta behind it, whole of this portion, it disappears. As such, it is not present. It disappears, and the left systemic artery, right systemic artery, it runs as the dorsal aorta. So in the sixth aortic arch, it changes into the pulmonary aorta, and it has lost the connection with that of the lateral dorsal aorta. So it splits into two and then it joins the lungs. So this is the main difference. So what you have to make, if you had to draw this diagram proper for birds, what you'll draw just on the right side, and on the other end you would be making these dots. Of course, the ventral aorta splitting into two, and from here the reduced portions, lost portions, and then the internal carotid artery, common carotid, and this is the right subclavian giving right systemic artery giving rise to right subclavian. On this side is the left subclavian. This one, fifth one, is lost, and sixth one, it changes into the pulmonary arteries. This connection, all these connections are lost. So that is the diagram for the birds. And lastly is the mammals. In case of mammals, they resemble the birds in arrangement of aortic arches, except here the systemic aorta joins the left fourth aortic arch, which along with the lateral dorsal aorta behind it forms the left systemic aorta. And of course the right one that changes into subclavian artery. So basic plan is same. So how you going to make it? Let's make it with the dot, but we'll make the basic plan. On left side it is complete. All dots, these are all dots. Okay, so this is the ventral aorta, internal carotid artery, first lost, second also lost, third one forming external carotid artery, internal carotid artery, and common carotid artery. Now here is the fourth one. On the right side, it doesn't join with the rest of the aortic artery, lateral aorta. Here it forms right subclavian vein. On the left side, this fourth arch is forming the left systemic arch, from which originates the left subclavian vein, and of course it has this pulmonary aorta which has lost the connection